What's going on, everyone? Friendly Neighborhood Fanboys are back for the return
again
of the podcast. We have a lot to talk about today. I know that Chief Head is on the table at all times, basically, now on our little set here, but we're talking about the Halo show, Season 2. We've seen the first 2 episodes. We have a lot of thoughts on this. Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine just dropped. Phenomenal trailer. There's a lot to unpack there, a lot to be broken down, and then we have a few other little tidbits, like a few comments from Mark Ruffalo about the Hulk and Madam Web. First reactions
the
are
Madam
coming
Web
out.
reception. Yeah.
So
pumped for that one.
Yeah. But before we get into this, if you're on YouTube, hit that like button. Really does help us out. It helps us rank, helps us make more stuff like this. Subscribe to our channel, of course, if you want to see more podcast content. But our main reaction content and channel content is great, so I highly recommend you check it out. And if you're on podcast providers like Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you listen to it, subscribe, rate us, do whatever you got to do there. We appreciate your support. So how about we start off with the Halo show?
Yeah.
We just want to get right into that heat, eh?
Yeah.
So
I guess maybe like we should start out with just kind of first impressions on the first 2 episodes.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you guys start.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. It hasn't gotten any better. Had some hope. The trailers gave me a little bit of hope. And again, I think we've discussed about kind of letting go of the whole expectation part of it and being like, okay, it's an alternate Halo universe, I guess.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I still think the writing, you know what? I'll give it this. The production value increased. Like some of the action was pretty solid. Like the fog scene, even the training scene was pretty cool too. Like when, Riz is like trying to fight through her injury.
The Rizzler.
The Twizzler. All right.
Yeah, big red guy.
But yeah, like I don't know. Again, I still
Trippy
think they're like the writing and just the dialogue and what they decided to focus on screen time wise was just interesting to me. Like they spent so much time on stuff like, Chief sitting down for a nice
seafood dinner.
Yeah, and it's just like a nice little dinner. I'm like, what's your KD ratio? I'm like,
oh God.
That doesn't even make sense in real. Like I don't know.
Like,
I get that.
nobody would say that.
It's like
like maybe in like 2011, like Modern Warfare fucking like one day is like, yo, bro, like what's your KD?
Imagine
if
going
you're
up to a
16 years old.
Well, going up to a Navy SEAL. Hey, what's your KD ratio? Guy would murder you right there, bro. We don't joke about like
But you know what the
real
funny
people
thing?
died. Like,
The funny thing about that, when I saw that line, it clearly was like almost like the writers were trying to like overcompensate for all of the complaints that people had. Like everyone was bashing them for like saying like, oh yeah, we didn't like actually play the game. So it's like it almost felt like a cheap like, oh, what's your KD ratio? Like referencing the games. They probably thought it was hilarious. But I was like, this is just the cringiest thing I've ever seen.
Months before. Like I'm just saying, like Infinite didn't even have the ability to check your service record for like months after release, but hilarious.
Like it's just such an outdated, like just stupid like video. It felt like a throwaway like video game reference joke, and it's like, dude, this isn't funny.
It like the equivalency. I mean, we've only seen the first 2 episodes, so like I don't know if they're gonna do this again. I hope not, but it felt like the equivalent like season 1 kind of version of that was when they went first person, and it was just like the cheesiest looking shit.
the Iron Man helmet cam.
Well, that too.
Yeah.
That's another whole thing. They've kind of shied away from that, I think, but like there are a few shots I think of Riz when she's like climbing the mountain when you just see her eyes, but like anyway, I agree with everything that you said. I think positives for me are, and I've seen a lot of critiques online for like, like the Covenant scene like in the mist when he's going to save all those Marines is like a cheap cop out to like hide bad CGI. It's like I don't really think that's actually a great technique in any movie when you see, CGI shrouded in darkness or in fog. It's a great way to like help blend the CG with the real world.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a cop out per se, like it's actually just an aesthetic technique.
I think for that scene it works to add tension to the action sequence for sure.
Yeah. And the whole thing with the elites is their whole being cloaked and staying hidden.
Yes.
Yeah.
Until they have to fight. Right?
And their swords do cloak, FYI, with their regular body cloak too.
Yes, they do.
I really like that. I think the choreography was great in that scene. I just wish that was the show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, focus on that
Yeah,
part. Yeah.
like that was sick, and I was like, oh, okay, like, you know, we get the cheap throwaway, like all of a sudden he has the grapple shot on his wrist now, and you're like, oh, nice. Like they're like, here, here's another thing, like, look, guys, we looked at the game finally.
Look, guys,
it's like
we did 5 seconds of research on the game. We
What
went
does
to like
Master
the
Chief
most
have
recent
on
one.
Google?
Here you go. Here you go. Here you go.
And
Hey Siri, Google.
Guys,
Yeah.
we did our research. We watched a 5-minute IGN review on Halo Infinite. Here's your grapple hook.
yeah, literally, we watched one trailer. No, but like, you know what? That stuff was good.
Yeah.
And then you can tell they are reaching into a little bit of lore because they reference the relay on Reach as Visegrad, like it was in the game and the books, which is cool.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a few other highlights, which are mainly just, you know, when you see the planet get glassed, like visually, you're like,
was
oh,
cool.
that's cool. Other
Yeah.
than the random monk people there that, you know, you're supposed to care about. And I think it was the Act Man we were just watching. Shout out to the Act Man. Not like you're ever going to see this, but like get away from the mysticism. Like we don't need that. We're not watching a
Yes.
fantasy like wizard show. Like I'm watching Halo. I want to see you fight Covenant.
Yes.
That's it.
The Covenant
Yeah.
are supposed to be the religious,
Yes.
like fanatics.
Yeah,
And then the
100%.
humans are like, hey, let's rely on our technological ability to
Yeah.
hopefully have a chance against these people. And it's like,
Exactly. Yeah. Other than that, for me, I didn't like it at all. I honestly didn't like the training scene at all because it was so uncharacteristic of like how Chief is supposed to be. And I know they're implying that he's supposed to be going through some like PTSD of like, you know, I don't know if it's just because of the Cortana stuff or just because of the McKee stuff, but like,
he's supposed to be the one they look to and have respect
Yes,
for. Like,
he's
even when
a-
he's like talking to those other Spartans who walk in
Yeah.
the locker room and they're like, you know, treating him like shit. Like that would never be a thing. Was he not like universally respected by all
like he's-
Spartans? And like, they're
100
kind of like family, all of them. They grew
Yeah.
up together. They went through all that shit together. And it's like, yeah, I get the poking fun, but that was more like
yeah, it was a little
insults.
aggressive.
Oh, they have feelings now. It's like that
And
shouldn't
then-
even be a
yeah.
topic of discussion.
Exactly. And then like the reverse of that is like during that training scene, he's just being a colossal like piece of shit towards them and like
Get
not
up.
acknowledging that Riz is like severely injured and stuff, which I don't know. I feel like the chief I know would have like noticed that instantaneously and been like, "Okay,
1000%.
chill." Instead, she like
1000%.
basically shatters her spine off a giant waterfall, and lands on a rock, and he's just like, "Get up, do it again." And you're like,
What? Yeah.
I think we visibly all looked at each other during that. We were like just recoiled because we're like,
That's not
what?
Chief.
Like,
Yeah.
why is he being such
it's,
a
it's
cock?
just one of those things where it kind of pulls you out because like I don't know this character.
Yeah.
You know, and not even in a good way where it's like, oh, well, I don't know this character because, you know, they're going into other depths in terms of character explorations. Like, no, this is fundamentally not who Master Chief is supposed to be, and you can feel that disconnect through the screen.
100%. It's not stoicism. It's just like he's
You're
a
an
dick.
asshole.
He's just being a dick.
Yeah.
Like, he's just being a dick.
Yeah.
Just to kind of go off what you said, I pretty much agree with everything that you said. There are cool elements and there are certain moments in those first 2 episodes where I'm like, man, like this, I would give nothing. Sorry. I would give everything. I would give everything to be able to say that I do love the show because I love the property so much and I've loved the games my entire life. But there's so much that I disagree with. Like, there are certain things with the lore that are interesting, but like, you know, there are certain elements of the lore that have been brought over from the first season with the whole like rabbit shit pellet in the back of their head that I just
they
like,
reference that right at the beginning.
I hate that so much. I hate that part of the lore so
Yeah.
much. So
I'm
there are
really
some
not a
great
fan.
elements. It looks great for the most part. His helmet drives me absolutely ballistic. I really don't like his helmet.
Good.
But
I feel like too, like, I don't know if that's just an opinion we have because like a lot of the people online are like, yeah, the suits, like including all the suits, look really good. I look at the Chief one and I'm like, I've seen cosplayers online that like do it way better.
yeah,
And I'm only talking about Chief's suit too. Like, I think the other members of Silver Team, like
Look
their
great.
suits look phenomenal.
yeah, they look fantastic.
And I don't know if that's just because they're all black and it's just kind of hiding imperfections or whatever the case may be. Or I'm not giving any shade or disrespect to like the costuming team because I do think they look great.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, Chiefs just looks odd. He looks a little thin. And that's not no knock on Pablo either. I just think like the armor itself has to be kind of built out a little more, just like Vanix is.
Right.
To me, like I don't mind the suit. The only thing that gets me is the
neck is
the neck part
brutal.
right here. The helmet, yes, sure. There's definitely
Yeah.
gripes. So I think overall it's pretty solid, but it's just the neck part.
The
Like,
neck
it
drives
doesn't
me
look like
nuts.
the Spartans have that undersuit that you
Yeah.
see where it goes.
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and like
Yeah.
I think it's like it's a Spartan. I think it's the Mark IV look was kind of like, I always say this as a joke, but like I genuinely mean it. Like like almost like a bendy straw, like that type of material, like the ribbed kind of neck. It's similar to the Mark IV, but like for whatever reason, costuming wise, like it's supposed to go up basically the back of your head so that you can't see your actual head like in the helmet, but like it just stops here for them.
Yeah,
it's like you see the seam and stuff, and that's why they put the thing I hate about most about the helmet is like this little gasket under the neck just to kind of hide like his actual chin, but it just looks bad to me.
Yeah,
like this to me is like quintessential. Like throw this on that suit, and I think it would be leaps and bounds better.
We should
but anyway,
do that.
It's almost like we should try.
Yeah, you should do
that.
that, Reese.
Ooh.
Yeah. Might be a challenge I could be up for. Stay tuned.
Honestly, like everything from the neck down, I actually didn't mind. I don't mind how he looks a little bit thinner. Like I can kind of forgive that. There are certain things I agree with you, like the shit underneath, like the chin, I don't like. I also just don't like the way what they did with the visor. Like the way the visor and like this little like the top part, like I don't know, I just don't.
It just looks like, and the front of this too. Like if you look at them side by side, his mouth it's not directed down, it's forward, and it juts outwards too. I don't know if that's to hide like a microphone for them to actually like speak dialogue or what that is. Yeah.
Right.
And also the vents on the side are really like bulging outward. So there's just something off about it when I look at it compared to this, and I think that's why I just don't like it. Yeah. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if you disagree, but like,
and I mean we're really nitpicking it, but realistically, like, and
here's the thing: regardless of what the suit and stuff looks like, it's not going to save it from the main issues of the show, which is I think the writing is terrible.
Same.
Like, I don't know, just some of the dialogue, you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like
odd rhythm for the dialogue too. Like 100%. I noticed in like a lot of the scenes, like in that one in like the hangar. Sorry, like were they in the Pelican? Right, I think the one that you're
or the bigger transport.
They're in the Pelican, right? Yeah. Like that whole like dialogue scene, like the way like the actual like rhythm of like the conversations. I had the same problem when we were watching the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League cutscenes as well, because there's something going on with like the rhythm of the dialogue that it's just like it feels really stilted, like
spaced
I don't know,
out or something,
and they had like spaced out like in a kind of a weird way. Like I don't know. I want to give props though to like like there are a lot of people that work on these shows, and there's a lot of effort that goes into 100%. It. So like in terms of everything, like the special effects team, I think knocked it out of the park for the most part. They did a great job. Like I know we have gripes with like the chief armor, but like everything else in the show, I think looks great. Like so costume set designers,
100%.
Like we're not sitting here trying to bash everyone that worked on it. It's just there are. I think it comes down to the writing as well for me. And
like at the end of the day, like the chief thing for me is like completely dismissible or would be dismissible if the story was solid and sound, because again, like the chief armor for me personally is just a nitpick or a gripe I have with the aesthetic of his suit.
Same here.
But like again, it would have been overlooked had the story been like great or like at least good in my opinion. But it was like it wasn't a Halo show. Like we cut away to Quan Ha. And I'm like, oh, she's back. I don't care. I don't care that she's back because not a lot of like nobody cared in the beginning anyway. It's like, why are you spending so much time on these side characters that nobody wants to see?
Yeah, and a lot of time too.
A lot of time. That whole second episode, I think I mentioned to you. I'm like, why are they bouncing around so much? Like it goes from Quan Ha, like the reveal of Quan Ha with the hood, to like cutting to the coolest shot of Covenant ships coming through clouds, like Star Trek, and you're like, oh my god, and there's an elite looking over, and then all of a sudden it cuts right back to Quan Ha, and I'm like,
what's going on here?
Why are we like ping-ponging around here? Like what's going on? Like I want to see that. I want to see them prepping to Glass Reach. I don't care that Quan Ha's in a cave with the other guy's son. Like
And to your point, I recently I'm in the process of replaying all of the Halo campaigns. I've so far cleared. At this point, as we're recording right now, I've cleared 1 to 4, and about halfway through Reach. What I notice, especially now replaying all those campaigns back to back to back, especially like 1 through 4, it is a big story in terms of the scope and the scale, but at the same time, everything is focused on like small scenes with Chief. Either like if you're talking Halo 2, it's either like with Chief and Arbiter, but it's really like it's a military story, I think, at the end of the day, and that's what the games kind of focus on, and it's really kind of focused on a small set of characters doing like, you know, things in like smaller kind of scenes or settings that impact the entire galaxy, if that makes any sense. And with the Halo, with like the TV show, same problem with season 1, but like, you know, carrying over to season 2, it's like the plot is spread out a little bit too much, where it's like I would rather have, like, in my head, if I like am trying to think of like what I would prefer to see with like Halo show, like I want to see like a sci-fi version of like a Band of Brothers kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or like almost like a
100%.
Saving Private Ryan. Like, give me, like, Halo is really a war story. It's a soldier story, but it's just in space.
Yep.
Right?
And you could still focus on that human story that we all know big companies like to do, but focus on the like humans in the like UNSC. Not
Yes.
some random like rebel character.
Exactly. Like
which
it is like there's a time for world building too, but like, you know, where it's necessary. Like you said, like I want to see more of like the inner workings of the UNSC. Like now, to give them credit, it's like we're seeing Oni, like Ackerson from the books is coming in now. He's, you know, a character that's, I think, well transposed and well characterized comparatively speaking to his appearance in the books. But they lean really, really heavy into that. And it also undermines Chief because it makes him seem kind of spineless. Like the one scene that kind of, again, made me kind of go like, what am I watching here? Is when Chief is basically begging, like literally begging Ackerson to not like ground him and his team. And he's like, no, sir, please. No, let us go. No. And literally like choking up like that. And I'm like, what am I, like, this wouldn't even be a thing. He'd just be like, yes, sir. Walks out, and then he's like, we're going
and then
anyway.
do it anyways. Yeah.
Not like, no, sir, please. No.
Like
no,
in Halo 4, when Del Rio was like trying to just bring him back to Earth, he was like, no, I'm going after the Didact.
Yeah,
like,
or
you know
like
what I mean?
when what's his name from Osiris is like, oh, Cortana's our problem now. He's like hell she is.
Yeah, exactly.
He just does it because he's like, I'm
100%.
I'm the Master Chief. I'm probably gonna take care of this myself. Like
the greatest tactician in the universe. Nice. Yeah. Anyway, I don't know.
I'm not a fan so far.
No, like at this point, I think what I'm looking for out of the show is clearly not anything deep or like, you know,
what it could be,
showing an appreciation for the lore and stuff. I'm not looking for that anymore, unfortunately. But what I am looking forward to see is, I think the rumor is episode 4 for press that's seen it has said that like it's supposed to be a oneer. I'm assuming that it's going to be that kind of sequence from the trailer that we saw with all of them like Halo 5 style jumping from either a Pelican or something to a Covenant cruiser, which is cool. Like, I just want to see Halo stuff happen in a Halo show. Wild.
Good thing we have to wait till episode 4 to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I agree with everything you said. To be clear, like, I think at the end of the day, we're not trying to hate on anybody's hard work or like single anyone on, you know, anyone out and say this is totally bad. It's just we would love to like it.
100%. And
it's
even the helmet argument, it's like, again, I
nitpicks. Those are nitpicks.
Yeah, like other than taking it off mid-battle, which I do not like, but if it was written well, aside from that, even that could be forgiven 100%. To me.
Yeah,
because it's like, okay, like I still don't agree with like everyone coming out being like, well, we have to take it off. But if they were to take it off and the story was still tight and solid and Halo centric and made you care about the actual world and not a bunch of tertiary characters, then I'd be like, okay, no problem.
If this was also just a different sci-fi show that had nothing to do with Halo, it'd be like, okay, maybe there's like a different approach to it. But like you've clearly agreed to make a show about a beloved franchise that people know very well. So you can't expect just to be like, well, we're going to do something completely different and not be faithful to any of this. And, you know, well, why aren't these people being open-minded? It's like, well, like you just said, yes, we can be open-minded with certain choices, but I still feel like you have to respect the lore and show and like the content that you're handling.
And there's a reason why it worked so well in the games.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like it just, you know, everyone loves Master Chief and hates everything else about the stories. It's like, no, all these little elements of the games make up people's love for.
It's a great story. Just it's a solid story. It was
so like, yes, you can call yourself the Silver Timeline and like allow yourself to deviate from canon, but it's like use what's already there to lay the groundwork. And then when you do have to make little changes to things just to make them work for the time that's allotted in an episode by episode basis, then that's fine. Then you can do that. You don't have to worry about being canon and like worrying about like timelines and historical events. It's just like, but base it off of it. It's right there. It was right there for you. But instead, you know, you push all this other junk into it, and
it's
flops.
just not a tight story. And like you were saying, I think if it was another sci-fi show, I think we would have the same issue though, because like the writing is still like the plot is still kind of all over the place. The writing isn't very good. There's a weird rhythm in the scenes. Taking like the Halo factor aside from it, it's just the story I think needs to be condensed. It needs to be tightened up. Like they need to leave more on the cutting room floor. You know what I mean? In terms of like plot wise, or shift the attention and detail to like somewhere else, like, you know, the bigger events, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if they're fortunate enough to do a season 3, I seriously think they have to consider, and obviously we don't know how the season ends, but like they do seriously have to consider just chopping most of their side characters and just fully focusing on like either whether it's a Chief and Cortana story or like throw Johnson in the mix. I don't care what you do, but like keep it tight, like core 3-4 characters max, and then the tertiary characters are like your silver team or like your blue team if they come in, or like seeing other people like come in from different things. Like maybe we get a glimpse of Noble Team at some point, which people theorize were standing on that rock while the planet was getting glassed, but it was a bunch of monks instead. Things like that, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you know, people can get mad at, because I think generally fans are also kind of on our side, like they're not too into the show. You can get mad at, you know, the negativity and like all the fans are, you know, never happy with anything. But I mean, like realistically, the fans, like we are, like I said a couple weeks ago, we are the target audience for this show. Like, yes. I mean, we've been playing the games for my entire lifetime. Like we are the ones that are going to love it the most.
Why wouldn't you write for those people?
Exactly.
Like I don't get it.
If you have a chance to appeal to hardcore Halo fans while simultaneously bringing the franchise to a more of a general audience, and like there's a way you can do both.
And that's just business too. Like that's like saying, I don't know, like, I mean, I guess like I'm using a bad example because Microsoft does everything, but it's like, hey, Microsoft PCs or Xbox or whatever, let's do something completely different and make microwaves, which they probably could. But you know what I'm trying to say? It's like you already have an established like customer base.
100%.
Why not just like let's do those people first, because we know they'll like it, and then of course that'll come with, you know, other people seeing it. Oh wow. But it's like
and the funny part is like there's even like lessons that you can take from the actual, like inside the actual Halo franchise, because like look at the reception of the Halo 5 campaign too. Like 343 kind of already went through that kind of period as like we like angered the fan base because
we took the focus off of Chief.
wow.
Exactly.
And what did you do in the show?
And then what did they do to fix it? They course corrected for Infinite.
Yes.
Made a more Chief-centric story, and now Infinite is
and
like
it's a beautiful story.
And I think honestly, like in general, like it's pretty like it's decently highly praised for, you know, story-wise, like what it was.
Aside from like how it launched, you know, on the multiplayer side of things, I think the core of the story is well liked.
Yeah.
It's just everything around it. That's a whole
separate argument, but yeah.
Yeah.
But on a lighter note, Deadpool and Wolverine. What did you guys think of that trailer, man?
That was sweet. I love how they're using, or it looks like they're using the TVA as the like the connecting point for everything. I don't know how they're going to do that, but
honestly,
I'm okay with it.
It makes perfect sense though, to be real. So like, I know you haven't even seen 2, but like at the end of Deadpool 2, spoiler alert for you only, Megasonic Teenage Warhead and Yukio make him or fix Cable's time travel device, which is also apparently a door to like universe hop as well, because he goes into a universe where I don't know if it's X2 or like wherever he first appears as Wade Wilson when they like do that stupid like stitch up his mouth thing. So he appears in that scene and kills that version of himself. Because he's like, fuck that.
This is at the end. This is at the end of 2, right?
At the end of 2. So he's using this device that Cable has to hop universes to like go like fix shit.
Yeah.
So it's literally the perfect reason why the TVA would be like, oh, this guy's on our radar now, and like, you know, this is why they grab him, which is actually kind of cool. It's like a perfect connecting point. Yeah. That's purely unintentional how it connected, because that was before they even were acquired by Disney, but it works.
Yeah.
For your pleasure too. He goes back and what's the other one? He kills himself in the real world reading the Green Lantern script.
Oh yeah.
I've seen that clip. Yeah, I've seen that clip.
And I think there's another one too. Oh, he saves oh my god, what's his name? Peter. like that random guy that's on X-Force that just asks to join. Like there's a guy in the movie that's just a regular guy.
Just go home.
that like joins X-Force in the movie, and he gets like he's basically trying to help another guy who's dying and like gets caught in a shredder, and he gets shredded pulper. Too. So like gotcha. Tree pulper, and and he time travels back to that moment. He's like, Peter, walk away, just go. And he's like, okay. He leaves and shit. It's like there's little moments like that. So anyway,
I've seen clips of two. Yeah. It's just I haven't gotten around to actually like watching it. Not for 100%. Any specific reason. I just missed it in theaters and just haven't gotten around to watching it. But
again, great connecting point.
Yeah.
I personally like the from what we've seen, from the breakdowns we've seen, it almost looks like there's this band of kind of like Mad Max style people that are on I forget what the actual term is for the world where people get pruned go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about though from Loki. And I think they're like all banding together, and those are like the misfits from every universe that have been like pruned for whatever reason. So like you see Pyro from X-Men 2 in there, and he's kind of one of the members, and then like from spoiler alert, leak set photos, there's like an old like 40 style Fantastic Four car. There's Red Skull's Nazi mobile. There's a few other things in there. Oh, I think there's like one of the trucks from Moon Knight or something is in there. Not whatever, but so that's gonna be interesting.
It just looks great all around. Like it's just gonna be more of
just fun and just making fun of the current state of the MCU, which I love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's pretty like that fourth wall breaking, like where he like looks at the camera, or like when he calls himself Marvel Jesus, like all that is like pretty hilarious. I can't wait to see Wolverine, bro. Oh my god,
I'm pumped.
I can't wait to see that suit in action.
I'm pumped. I'm looking forward to seeing the cowl finally.
Yeah,
like I know in all the leaked set photos and stuff we haven't seen it because all that's been leaked is from that like one kind of like scape where you see like the 20th Century Fox logo behind them that you see in the trailer.
And when we've seen set photos like of his like suit on, obviously it's just
yellow.
not
it's
with
just
that
not
cowl.
with the
that
cowl.
Is going to be surreal.
Do you think they'll do the white eyes like they do with Deadpool?
I think they will.
I think so.
Which is sick.
Interesting because I think that'll be cool.
Because
they never do
100%.
that. Like they don't do that with Batman.
Which is insane to me. Like this, if they do, and we're right about it, and they do it for Wolverine, I think this should be a signal or a beacon to Mr. Gunn that you should do just for Brave and the Bold. You can leave the Batman alone for Brave and the Bold. Just do it. Just do it.
Give us the white eyes.
Like, all the CG is just in the brow. The brow moving. That's it. Like,
and you could still emote. And it's this whole thing with what we were talking about with Halo.
Yes.
It's like just because you cover the face, you can still show emotion.
100%. And I know, in the past it's maybe been something to do with like actor contracts, not being able to see their eyes and like stupid shit like that. But it's like, if, not to immediately bring it back to Batman v Superman, but like in the armored mech suit, like his eyes are covered and it's sick.
And
it's
it looks
right
amazing.
From The Dark Knight Returns. And you're like, that's amazing.
And I mean,
that's a major star and, Oscar-winning director in that helmet wearing it. So it's like there should be no excuse for any other actors. Like, just do it. Do it
And
once.
I'm honestly, like, for the people that are listening audio only, I'm literally looking around our set right now because we have a couple of, like, comic books with Batman.
Yeah,
where you got the Jim Lee sketch of him right behind you, Ben. And it's like, every time you see Batman in the comics, he's got the white eyes. Like, come on, let's go, let's go. Yeah, we'll see how it looks. I think they will do. Watch, we're gonna say all this, and like, there's gonna be no white eyes. There's gonna be Hugh Jackman's eyes, which I can get lost in. But like,
like either way, listen. Not to get too nitpicky.
I hope
again,
it's the white eyes, though.
I hope it's the white eyes. Even if it's not, it'll still look cool. But like, it would be cool if they just did it. I'm pretty sure there was key art, if it's real, that show him with the cowl with the white eyes.
Okay.
That was a supposed leak. Again, I don't know if it's fake or not. It looks pretty legit, and it was circulating a lot on Twitter. There was another one that was circulating on Twitter that's completely fake and AI, which is like a cowl in a glass cabinet. That was fake, but the key art I think is real, and it does show white. So
sick.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's dope.
One thing I want to say too about the Deadpool trailer is I really like how it's coming out like kind of soon as well. Like it's coming out in like July. So like I'm glad, we a little teaser trailer, but I'm glad we don't have to wait 4 years to actually like watch it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean like I have high hopes for it.
Me too. I'm mildly terrified for the actual like official first trailer since that was just the teaser, because like teaser already gave us a lot.
Yeah.
It's probably all footage that they already shot. But there was just a little break because of the strike, and then they like shot the rest of the movie. So like there's probably still a lot that, you know, they're working on behind the scenes and stuff like that.
True.
So I am looking forward to the full trailer, and we're probably going to get that big Wolfie suit reveal there. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, it's gonna be wicked. I think it's after Dune Part 2, it's probably my most anticipated, I think, film this year.
I don't know what else is coming out, to be honest. So here we come.
Yeah.
Well, Madam Web is coming out soon. I think.
Yeah, I know. I've been seeing some stuff around online.
Yeah.
Here we go.
maybe that's a good segue to go into Madam Web, because
what was the official rating for it?
I think right now, as we speak,
I'm looking at it right now.
16%.
It's 20,
again, not that I take Rotten Tomatoes as gospel, because there are many movies that do not deserve those ratings. But
like BBS.
But I can't say that I'm shocked at this one, because I feel like this. I'm not even just correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like universally people are kind of frustrated at the Sony Spider-Man villain universe that they've created for some reason without Spider-Man in some adjacent weird universe. Because 9 times out of 10 they are just not good, objectively.
Well, okay, and we're also saying that I feel like we are kind of outliers, because a lot of people do like Venom. We did not really like Venom, so take that as you will.
I think like the first one is the exception to that. I think the second one is kind of universally like, what?
I don't even remember the second one. Even you put a gun to my head and said, "What's the plot?"
And
Oh yeah, okay.
Even the first one for me, like I didn't like it.
I don't like it straight up.
I don't like it.
I think there are cool parts and cool things that illustrate, Venom being a badass, and cool lines, like literally right from the comics and stuff. But I just think the lack of Spider-Man in those just really drive me nuts.
I think Venom is one of those characters you kind of need to have Spider-Man like as a counterforce. In that kind of narrative. I mean, Venom now, like in the comics though, like Venom does work kind of like as his own entity, but I mean, like there's a lot of canon that has been built up over the years to put behind Venom to put him in like the way, the way he is. Like, because right now in the Marvel comics, he's existing outside of Spider-Man for the most part.
I just think they really they missed by not making it rated R. Like for real. They could have made that like a lot more. I'm not saying you have to make it scarier. Like I do like the moments of levity where like, Venom's joking around with Eddie and stuff like that, and like scaring the shit out of Eddie, like as he's trying to navigate like what it's like to have this symbiote attached to him. But like, I think they really did miss out not making it rated R, especially because it is adjacent to the Spider-Man movies. Like you don't have to worry about appealing to like young kids, because it's already a terrifying giant gooey monster. So like you could have just went all out, and then that in turn would have made your second movie automatically that much better. And it's not just a matter of it like making it rated R,
right?
But it allows the writing to be more free and to not pull your punches.
Yeah,
in my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah, no,
like I could have done away with all the riot storyline and all that stuff. Like I'm still not a fan of it regardless, but yeah.
And I mean, to be clear, we have not seen the film yet. As of right now, it doesn't come out until tomorrow. As of like how we're taping this, we're just kind of reacting to right now, sitting at a current 23% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Up a little bit,
and it went up a little bit, but I mean, I think we're just kind of using this. We're kind of using this as a talking point to kind of speak on the whole Sony cinematic universe in general. I think, and like I said before, a lot of people put a lot of work into the film, so we're not trying to bash anyone on the production side or the casting side or anything like that. But I don't know. I guess we'll just have to check it out and see for ourselves. But so far, it's kind of not looking too good. And the Craven movie is also coming out later this year as well, right? Which is also part of that Sony cinematic universe.
I think like Venom was kind of, although it wasn't the most well critically received movie, at least it was kind of pleasing to audiences. But I think Morbius was the tipping point for people being like, okay, like what are they doing? Especially with, the link of Venom to the MCU that we got as well, kind of teasing that like, oh wait, maybe there's a piece of symbiote like in the MCU now, and like what does that mean, and are these universes going to merge, are we finally going to get that? And then Morbius just kind of like screwed with our logic of like how the multiverse works by throwing Vulture in there, coming through a portal, and then all of a sudden having gear in that universe and meeting Morbius. Like there was this whole confusing on top of Morbius being just not a great movie. There's
Yeah.
all this other confusing stuff piled on, and now it gets to a point where it's just like, they're just stacking these movies one after another, and it's like, okay, we got Madam Web. It's clearly not being received very well. It's like now the perception of Craven, which could be good, which they finally went balls to the wall and made rated R. I don't know if that'll help it or not, but it automatically puts that in people's heads like, oh, well, it's just another one of these like, Sony Spider-Man villain movies without Spider-Man, and it's probably going to be garbage. So I don't want to see it, or I don't care about it when a new trailer drops. It's like you're only hurting yourself at this point. So it's like, when is this going to end? Like, they either got to like merge these together or like toss another Spider-Man in them, or just scrap them all together and put all their money and time and energy into Tom Holland's continuation, which they are doing anyway, but like, where you just got to focus on that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
That's something I could talk about for hours too, but
well, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah. I've seen the debate of like superhero exhaustion, which I agree with in a sense, but I also disagree in a sense where it's like, I think it's just the exhaustion of seeing the same type of thing just being thrown at us every single time.
Yeah.
Be like, well, they love superheroes, but it's like they have a good superhero arc or story. Like obviously the MCU, the first, like, what was it, 4 phases or 3 that went up to Infinity War?
I think 4.
Like, that was beautiful because it was planned out. Everything had intent. There was purpose.
There was a
And I'm
direction.
and I'm not saying every movie has to be building towards something bigger, but like, it feels like people are just pulling out every character. Yeah, fucking giving them a Madam Web one. Do this. And it's like, do we need that? Is there a point to this?
Yeah.
And if there is, make it something really fucking good. If it's just like a standalone
100%.
thing, put everything into that. Make it good. Not like, well, here's $100 million. See what you can do. Like, really go into that with like, okay, what message are we trying to say? Maybe they did. Again, we haven't seen it yet, so maybe it could be awesome. But
literally.
I don't know. Like, that's just where I'm coming from, where I feel like there's just a whole like do everything instead of like, the Dune movies where Denis Villeneuve is like, treating this like is the only film he's ever gonna fucking do. And that's why, like, Dune 1 was incredible masterpiece. Dune 2 is looking to be beautiful as well. And it's, like, amazing. It's this, universe that everyone knows or a lot of people know. And guess what? He's like, I'm making this movie for, I forget. I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, I'm making this movie for one
like
person,
for like
me, because I'm a huge fan of this. And it's like, oh, that's what happens when you give somebody who actually respects the material control over that.
He didn't say, oh, this is the silver timeline of Dune and I'm going to do whatever I want with it. No, actually, he just pretty much followed source material from what you tell me, since you read all of the books thoroughly. So
No, it's true. And like, there's a certain, I mean, all art is subjective, but there's a certain level of craftsmanship that goes into a director like Denis Villeneuve, like directing, whether it's Dune or it's Blade Runner. Like, there's a certain level of craft going on. I'll use Dune Part 2 as an example. Like, there's a certain level of craft going on that's just like a higher standard than what we're seeing with these kind of like, a lot of these Sony films, they kind of all sort of look the same. They don't really have, I personally feel, from the first 2 Venoms and Morbius, of which I've seen, they don't really have like a standout kind of aesthetic quality. They're not really pushing the boundaries of the medium. I'm not saying that every single film has to do that. I just think that, there's a lot of opportunity with these superhero films to be able to do that, right? And there are some films that do it very well, right? The Joker did that very well. I would say that the Batman did that very well as well, like regardless of what you like think overall. Like, there are, and I know I sound like broken record, but I also think that BVS did that as well, right? Man of Steel, just like there are certain things you're taking the comic book, like, movie form and like pushing it, like pushing the boundaries of the medium.
And again, I think just at the end of the day, it's just
missing
if you write it well and it's good, regardless of the content of what you're writing, people will come see it.
Yes.
And at this point, it's like, even if it's good and a lot of people don't show up, which is, sometimes what happens, at least it'll be good. It'll reflect well on you and your brand so that people will come back.
And it'll probably, the way that everything works now with social media and everything, it'll find an audience later.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
Exactly.
100%.
The Office was very well received when it was on TV. It did solid numbers. but then it got a resurgence all those years later when
100%.
like it was put on Netflix, right?
100%. Look at like the Guardians movies, for example. Okay, like very well received to fans and critics alike for the most part. Those movies don't make like what you would expect from a giant Marvel movie. Like they make like 600-700 million, a lot of money, obviously. But
That's
in terms
nothing.
of but like in terms of like the last Spider-Man movie we got was 1.4 billion.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's kind of like what we expect in our head now of a massive like blockbuster superhero hit. But they don't always hit that, but that's okay. Like because the quality is still there.
Yes.
So now in people's heads, like headcanon, they're like, oh, the last good Marvel movie or good Marvel thing we've had is Guardians 3. Everything else that's come after that has been like subpar. I'm sorry to the people who do like the things that have come after, but like, I don't know. Like,
no, it's a good point.
There's a reason why they kind of scrapped everything else that's coming out or that was supposed to come out before Deadpool now, because they're like, all right, we just got to like chill for a bit, do a little reset, figuratively and literally, with like Deadpool coming out, and then reassess, go from there. So I'm really hoping like, you know, all the rewrites for Daredevil are positive. There was actually an article that came out from John Bernthal saying that the initial when they initially came back to ask him to be in Born Again, he said no, because he didn't like how they were presenting his character in that show, which is very telling of like the direction they were going, like She-Hulk era like trajectory. And it wasn't until they scrapped everything and went back to the drawing board and rewrote everything, put the original characters back and all that stuff, when he said, yes, okay, now I can bring this representation.
Amazing. Good for him.
So, and again, that's not foolproof. I'm not saying, oh, it's going to be the best. It could still flop or be shit, but like, at least that's giving a little bit of hope. Like,
it's a good sign,
Deadpool.
right?
It's a good sign.
It's a good sign, because generally speaking, John Bernthal is not someone in the industry to mince words, do something he doesn't want to
100%.
do. Like, you know, he seems like he has a very like strong set of like core values that can't be compromised. So that's a good sign, right?
Very good sign. Yeah, that was a lot to go through, but all I can say is still going to be watching the Halo show. We'll give our thoughts in another couple weeks. Just I think by then we will have seen episode 4, which is apparently, you know, the most hype episode. If anything else Deadpool related comes out, we'll also cover that, and anything else in between. Hit that like button. If you've made it this far, you are a champion, and I please ask you to comment if you have watched all the way to this point. That would be very exciting and interesting for us.
Yeah.
We do appreciate our small little viewing audience that we have on YouTube for the podcast so far, and we hope it does continue to grow. And we will see you soon.
For sure.
Hell yeah. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thank you.